there, and it works just as well.
Yeah.
One I didn't show shows someone parachuting into this spot, and they're a terrorist. You know, it works for anything you want. I didn't show you. Actually, I edited this one because this is my favorite by far. First, I'll point out that this person worked at the Boston Globe and was apparently a New England Patriots fan. This is actually the original cartoon. That's the Oakland Raiders, and I share the cartoonist view of that particular organization. Anyway, now, come on. No one should take this seriously as a picture of how evolution works, and yet people do. And the iconography, this picture, is probably contributing to people's confusion about evolution. That's the end of that. We won't revisit that topic, but it's important because Gould wants to attack another picture of evolution. He calls this one the cone of increasing diversity. And at first glance, I think it looks pretty good. What's wrong with this? Here's some ancestor. This could be the trunk of the tree of life, but of course we could be way out on the tree somewhere, and this could be some other lineage that spawned diversity. And then it branched, that one branched, that one branched, that one branched. And so from here to there, we went from, I don't know, one species or group to looks like 7 or 8. The cone of increasing diversity. This one's pretty common too. So let me pause my PowerPoint and show you an image. This is meant to be a poster. I think this thing's huge. It's 4 feet by 5 feet or something. It accompanied an article in a major journal just a few years ago. And if you zoomed in on it, you'd see all this hair around here. That each of those, each little thing is one of about 3,000 current species that's been put into a tree of life. And you're looking down on this tree, on this cone, I guess. Here are today's species, and it funnels down to very small numbers of little branches till you get to the trunk there in the middle. Now, this works really well for doing what it was intended to communicate, which is probably clear to you. What it was intended to communicate was the lineages of all these different species around here. That's what it's meant to communicate. It's not meant to show you the tree of life. Something's obviously missing from this if it's the tree of life, and what is that? Extinction. It's not shown here. Do you really think the authors of this article were unaware of extinction? Probably not. No, they had a different purpose in creating this picture. They wanted to show you the relationships between these species out here, how they're related to each other here and here and here and here. That's what they wanted to do. And they would laugh if you suggested they had created a picture of the tree of life in all of its entirety. But this document is called Tree of Life. Okay. So Gould hated this iconography. He's like, this is crazy. This cone of increasing diversity is ubiquitous, and it's misleading us dramatically. And it's not just misleading us because we go, oops, forgot about extinction. He thinks the problem is a whole lot bigger than that. Okay, so before we move on, also, this is Gould's picture. You're going to see this picture repeatedly in the next half an hour or so. This is Gould's picture. It looks really different, right? It does still have something at the bottom. It's got branches and other branches and others, but it's not a cone of increasing diversity. Suddenly things disappear and they never come back. What's interesting about this picture is not that. What's interesting about it, that I'm going to harp on, and that we're going to consider together at the end, is what that is, and that is, and that is. That's what we want to think about. Okay, well anyway, that's Gould's picture. For the record, I like it a lot. I think it's good, but it doesn't answer all very interesting questions. What about Darwin? Does anyone wonder what Darwin thought? Because it's kind of interesting. There's some stuff that Darwin got completely wrong because he didn't have a time machine and couldn't understand genetics. But, it's kind of amazing how many things he got right despite how little he knew. So this is Darwin's picture of the tree of life. And I think it's at first you might say it looks like a cone of increasing diversity, but in fact, there's quite a few sort of lineages here at the bottom and not that many more at the top, and there's plenty of branches that come to an end. not to dwell on that, except to say that this guy was pretty sharp. He got a lot of things right. Would he have lined up in Gould camp behind what I'll tell you is called diversification and decimation? I don't know. He wrote a lot about extinction, so I'm sure he understood it. All right, in any case. Let's talk about the Burgess shale. All right, so what the heck? Wait, no, this is the point at first I wanted to make about Gould's picture. I already asked you to consider the white space. Gould's makes a big deal out of attacking icons that are a joke. He had a blast with the ladder of the ladder of progress, and we did too, and that was fun. He similarly trashes the cone of increasing diversity, shows historically how ubiquitous it is. I think misses the point that people don't usually mean what he thinks they mean when they draw that silly picture. But then he draws this one, and I would just invite you to reflect just for a second before we move on to the Burgess shale, which he claims to be the inspiration for this picture. How might this picture mislead us about biological history? Because I think it's not very well labeled, if you ask me. Okay. The Burgess shale is what this book is about. By the way, the guy's a great writer. He was a polymath. He knew everything. And the title is No Mistake, Wonderful Life. An obvious reference to the film It's a Wonderful Life, which is a story of historical contingency and how historical events direct, right, make everything different. So that's what that's all about. It's not just that old Steve thought life is wonderful, which I'm sure he did. Quickly, the Burgess shale, its fossils, and Stephen Jay Gould's view of evolutionary history. So that's the next topic. So first of all, no, I'm not a paleontologist. I'm not even close. There is at least one paleontologist in the crowd, and I'm hoping not to embarrass myself too much in front of him. All right, but in my defense, Gould was a paleontologist. He wrote a whole book about these fossils. He did not study them. And this is a common misconception. And Stephen Jay Gould studies of the Burgess shale. I don't know if he's ever even been there. He's dead now. So Stephen Jay Gould was also not the world's expert on the Burgess shale. Heaven knows I'm not. Simon Conway Morris is. He did a lot of the work that we're going to refer to. And so if there's anyone you need to defer to on the nature of the Burgess shale, it's not Stephen Jay Gould. It would be Conway Morris and someone else I'll quote a little bit later. All right, so, but about the Burgess shale, what are we talking about here? This is a deposit in British Columbia. The animals there are all from the Cambrian period. Now, if that's all jargon to you, no problem. It's not important for what we're going to do today, okay? But for the experts in the crowd, these are Cambrian fossils. They're roughly 510 million years old, and that means that all these fossils that were found in this interesting spot in British Columbia are all right after the so-called Cambrian explosion. So if you know a little bit about the history of life on Earth, you know that there was this apparently relatively sudden appearance of a whole lot of different kinds of animals in the fossil record. A sort of big bang of life, as some people put it, the Cambrian explosion. And that's not our topic today. I don't even think it's terribly relevant to what we're doing today. But in any case, these animals appeared roughly after that. So they're not pre-Cambrian, they're Cambrian. All right. The Burgess fauna was notable for the fact that the animals' soft parts were preserved. That was rare. Now, there's, I think, a couple more places in the world now where such things can be found. But at the time, exactly 100 years ago, unheard of. It was apparently a mudslide or something that buried this ecosystem and created all these wonderful fossils, including their soft parts. So really special, to this day, a really special place to find certain kinds of animals from a certain time in Earth's history that are preserved in a certain way. They were discovered exactly 100 years ago by Charles Doolittle Walcott. He had just become secretary of the Smithsonian Institute and directed it, I think, the rest of his life. And so, if you go looking for pictures like some of the ones I have here, or more information about the Burgess shale, his fossils, that's where they are at the Smithsonian. 65,000 fossils dug up during his career from the Burgess shale. Burgess shale is full of all sorts of weird, wonderful creatures, some of which are pretty famous. So I'll just show you a few examples. Okay. This is a picture. There was a fossil and then some artist's reconstruction of them. I'm going to show you a couple of fossils that are of some group on Earth, a couple that aren't, and then tell you the whole story of why it was member. So this thing is some kind of trilobite. There is its picture from the Smithsonian website. This thing is called Willaxia. I trust I got that right. And there's the fossil, which looks